Hi everyone, it's Justine and we need to talk about Emily in Paris again because they brought out a season 2 and it's almost as full of cliches as the first one. Same procedure as last year. I've watched the entire season already, taking notes of what cliches I saw about my culture. I will tell you which ones I think are right, which ones wrong and why. My personal opinion, of course. And then in the comment section down below, let's discuss whether you agree with me or not and whether you think I might have missed something. I've got 7 points that I mainly want to talk to you about. Let's start with the work culture. There's this myth about the fact that French people don't want to ever work weekends.
Maybe I should DM Gregory. I just got off the phone with Mathieu.
No, don't do anything. It's illegal to work on weekend in France.
And then later in the same episode...
But I told him that I would fix it.
Stop trying to fix everything. You're just making more work for everyone else on a weekend, which is illegal.
So I don't speak for everyone here, but I've worked in France, Germany, and Chile. And in my opinion, by far, the country where people are least likely to be reachable during weekends and to be online is Germany, not France. And in France, actually, I've worked for several companies there and my teams were checking emails 7 days a week. I'm not saying it's great, not saying that, but this myth that the French are taking infinite lunch breaks, don't want to work on weekend and drop their pens at 5 p.m. sharp, this image is completely inaccurate in my opinion, especially in the industry that Emily works in this series, which is marketing, PR, events. There, when you have an event, you have to be online, of course, so it's really unrealistic the way that the culture is portrayed there. Next topic, relationships. This series has an interesting view of relationships in France.
The lights are on. He's still there. Why don't you go talk to him? If he wants me back, he's gonna have to work for it.
So I think I know where that's coming from. It's this thought that French women are very passionate, very sulfurous, and a bit bitchy. For me, that's a personality thing of Camille, of the French lady, and certainly not a cultural trait. Then there is this Gabriel, who is the chef living next door to Emily, who spends the entire season unable to decide whether he wants to be with Emily or with Camille. And he keeps looking like an abandoned puppy. That's inspired by the concept of ménage à trois, which is supposed to be a very French thing. And in case you didn't know, the reference is mentioned heavily in one of the episodes, just to make sure. It's the movie Jules et Jim, which is an old classic, where there is a woman who is having a relationship with 2 men in parallel. That woman is unstable and unhappy. She has mental issues and the movie ends extremely dramatically. It certainly does not represent the culture in general. And then this ménage à trois thing kind of became an equivalent of voulez-vous coucher avec moi? Both are extremely, extremely poor ways of hitting on a lady, if you know what I mean. This is super cringy, and we're not all like that. Moving on to France having no air conditioning.
Can we turn off the air conditioning or on?
We don't have air conditioning.
We don't.
It's not common in Paris. It's so unnatural.
I would say this is true, this is accurate. Also because we don't really need air conditioning. France has a pretty small surface compared to other countries. The south of the country does get really hot in summer, but then the houses have really thick walls. So inside it's always cool, 24/7. So you don't need air conditioning, not even to sleep. And then the entire country gets cold, or at least colder in the south in winter, but then every house has a heating system, so we don't need to heat through air conditioning either. Comparing with New York City, which I know enough to talk about it, there, yes, you need air conditioning because in summer the air sticks. It's like liquid. That's why everybody who can will try to go away and leave Manhattan in summer because it's unbearably hot and sticky. Paris gets warm in summer, but it's nothing compared to New York. Also, now, from my French perspective, in all honesty, I don't understand why Americans are so fond of their air conditioning. When I was living in New York City, there was an air conditioner in each room in my flat, and my flatmate would always turn on the heating in winter to like 23 or 24 degrees Celsius. And then in summer, he would cool down to 15, which is like the minimum the system can do. So I'd have to wear socks and a sweater in summer because inside the house was freaking cold. whereas we had 30 degrees Celsius outside and it was actually hot summer, you know? So for me, that doesn't make sense. In fact, it wasn't just in my apartment. Every building that I went to in New York City in summer was so freezing cold. Like what I remember from summer in New York is the cold. Next one, about sports not being a lifestyle or not even being a thing in France. There is this new client that comes to the agency where Emily is working in Paris and pitches his product that looks a lot like a Peloton bike, but called differently.
From what our research tells us, exercise is more like a pastime in France, not a lifestyle. We at Pelotech intend to shift that mentality.
Yeah, je préfère encore me jeter dans la Seine.
Ah, puis quel intérêt d'avoir ce truc quand on peut rouler dehors? Hein? Tu vas nulle part avec ça?
I'd say this cliche is outdated, but partly correct. There was a thing in France, especially in Paris, where if you were cool, people would ask you, oh, you're so slim, how do you do it? And the woman would answer, oh, I don't do anything really, when they're actually walking 5 or 10 kilometers per day because they use public transportation and the subway stations are like endless walks in Paris. And they do sport several times a week, but it's like, oh, I don't do anything. I just, you know, like not telling the secrets kind of. I would say this has passed though. I don't think people would hide the fact that they go to the gym or to a spin class or climbing anymore. And I think the lifestyle is to take care of yourself in general, mind, body and soul. And Emily's colleagues puts it pretty nicely when he asks, what's the point of having this bike when you could be outside? Next point, being naked at the hammam. There is this scene in one of the episodes where French girl Camille invites Emily on her birthday to spend an afternoon at the hammam with her friends.
Merci. Can I have a robe too? S'il vous plaît.
All the French girls walk around completely topless, super comfortable, lying lavishly on the surfaces and everything. Emily spends the entire time wrapped in her bathrobe, looking at her feet, embarrassed as can be. And this really made me smile because it's a misconception, because French girls sometimes get topless on the beach. They would not go naked to a sauna. That's Germany. Everybody goes to the naked sauna, completely naked, sweating, very close to other people, men and women together. And actually, when I first went to the sauna in Germany wearing my swimsuit, the Bademeister came up and said, honey, you gotta be new here. I've got some information for you. You have to take off your swimsuit. I was like, excuse me? You're kidding, right? And he was like, no fabric in the sauna. And I was like, well, no sauna then. If you're German and you're watching this, you must be thinking, oh, she's so conservative and prudish. But it's really a cultural thing to be naked close to other people in public places. It's really not common in France. The next point is one that I found super interesting, cultural clash between America and France. In season 2, new characters are being introduced. One of them is an American lady who is a senior manager at the mother company in Chicago. And that company actually bought the Parisian agency. And so the American lady is paying a visit to the daughter company in Paris. Americans are knowingly quite direct when they do business. And so it clashes because the way they work is different. The way they communicate and the way they do things is different versus France. And she comes with her American perspective of how the daughter company should have to do things.
Merci for seeing things my way. I know how much the French love to say no.
I would say it's even more different when you're talking about the luxury industry, which is the topic here.
We're not really like that. It's all in the way you ask.
Yes, 100% it's the way you ask. And in France, that's essential. Even if you're only doing your job, something that you're paid for, your boss will always say, please, thanks, and ask for your opinion. It's respectful. Hierarchies are flatter in France, whereas in the US, I feel like it's more top-down. And what the headquarters say has to be executed. In France, you would have more discussion about this to make sure that it also works for the French context, which I think makes sense. Again, especially if you're talking about the luxury industry. Another example with the same American lady who is the senior manager in Chicago.
We should launch in conjunction with the Festival du Cannes.
Actually, it's pronounced Cannes.
How you say potato, I say potato.
for somebody who's French, the answer of the American lady comes across as extremely pushback. Imagine if I said Washington, Seattle, Houston. I mean, it's so mispronounced that you would burst out laughing, probably. You can barely guess which cities I'm even talking about. If you were American and I'm the Frenchie mispronouncing your city completely, you would correct me in reality, and I'd be thankful. The nuance is, you would say, oh, you mean Houston? You would phrase it as a question. Whereas the French guy says, no, actually it's pronounced like this. It's not meant to be lecturing her at all. Most of the time when people correct you, it's because they're trying to help. Because if you mispronounce can, people will not understand what you're talking about. So he's trying to help because he knows that the French pronunciation is nothing like what you see written down on paper, and so it's very challenging for foreigners, and there's no afterthought there. One funny thing to notice is that in that exact scene, you see Emily being confronted with the American and the French cultures in one room, and she's actually embarrassed because she can tell that what the manager said is not going to go down well with the Frenchies. So her intercultural understanding is starting to grow from the time she's already spent in France. If there is a season 3 of that show, I'm interested in seeing how this narrative is going to develop. May I just add a comment about one other new character from season 2, the Ukrainian girl who is in Emily's French class and who is portrayed as a thief.
Je sens gratuit.
Gratuit?
Je ne pas payer. J'adore gratuit.
I'm gonna go as far as to say that the Ukrainian people I know are no thieves, and if I were Ukrainian, I wouldn't like that a lot, huh? It's quite tone deaf, and I didn't find that funny. Then let's get into Emily's wardrobe, because her sense of style from season 1 to season 2 has evolved, clearly. I don't know if you noticed. Emily's from Chicago, but the way she dresses is like Fashion Week every day of the week. It's not so much Chicago style, it's more Carrie Bradshaw, you know, extremely colorful, very trendy, a bit extravagant. There are tons of examples throughout this season where she's mixing neon colors, wearing oversized dresses, tulle fabrics that are really not common, coats. Her style is very high fashion Indian. I think that's how I would call it. There is also this visible desire of the costume team of the show to make gloves and bucket hats trendy, or trendy again. Emily is wearing contrasting gloves at the office in several episodes, so clearly there is a pattern there. The bucket hat in Paris, for me, screams tourist, but I mean, it has been trendy before in street style. I have nothing against all that. I find that more fun than just wearing black every day of the year. However, her style is extremely unpractical when you know the reality of Paris is cobblestones. Stiletto heels are simply not possible there. And so every time that I see Emily walking in high heels, in my head, her credibility decreases. However, I do have to highlight progress here. In season 2, it seems that Emily's wardrobe is getting a little bit more wearable. A little bit more practical, a little bit, tiny little bit. Sometimes she'll be wearing flats. Sometimes you will see her wearing a very nice designer chic dress, but like without the maximum proportions. So it seems that her aesthetics is starting to be slightly influenced by the Parisian aesthetics. And if there is a season 3 of that show where the progression continues, I'm going to do a fashion review, because then from season 1 through 2 to season 3, it's going to be very interesting to review. But don't worry, Emily is still far from becoming French. Her French is literally still work in progress. She fails to move on to the next level of French. And it seems that after a month in the city, she's going to her first farmer's market ever. If you have the opportunity of visiting France in the future, do go to farmers markets, because they are everywhere. You'll find something any day of the week pretty much, and they're one of my favorite things about France. Thumbs up if you enjoyed this video. Thank you very much for your support. I'm looking forward to your comments. If you want to watch my review of Emily in Paris season 1, it's linked here in the card and also down below in the description. Do also let me know about your country's cliches in the comments. What are you known for? Because I know from the YouTube analytics from my channel that I have subscribers pretty much in every country in the world, so it will be super interesting to read about your own experiences and stories as well. See you soon, and until then, take care. Bye.